if you're listening right now, I would write this down. This is my affirmation. It doesn't have to be yours, but I am crystal clear on the outcome that I'm going for. So I write this down every day. I create an abundant, recession-proof environment where people can do what lights them up. I create an abundant, recession-proof environment where people can do what lights them up. I write down my goals every morning, and that's one of the affirmations / goals that I write down. You can see today, I write down all the things I'm grateful for. I write down my health goals, relationships, spirit, wealth, and business. And right there, it says, I create an abundant, recession-proof business where people can do what lights them up. So, I practice what I preach. I write down my goals every morning. I share them with the team. And so what, to go a little bit deeper into that, how do you inspire versus explain the fear side of the equation? Well, the way I've explained it to everyone is I believe, and you have to explain to your team, that a bigger business equals more opportunity. So what does that look like? Okay, well, a bigger business means a bigger brand, means more leads. It means more cases for a law firm, right? It means a lot of things. The truth is this: if you only have 2 employees helping you out, it's you and 2 helpers, those 2 helpers will likely spend 80 to 90% of their weeks doing things they hate because they have to wear all the hats. They got to do a little bit of billing, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But once you actually build a team, there's at least the chance, the opportunity for people to go into the roles that really light them up. There's no chance of that if you're a 2-employee company. So being clear on that's important. I think the next step is the business recession-proof side, right? So having a bigger company, having more cases, right? You can't have a bigger company if you do not have more cases or leads to get those cases. And with that, the company has a higher revenue threshold, and therefore I always say, the revenue is the initial target. You can't worry about margin at first, because if you don't have revenue, you can't have margin, right? So growing the revenue, growing the top line of the business gives you a chance to wiggle out a little bit of unnecessary expenses. And I always say profit is experience. Profit margin is experience. You spend a little money on something that didn't really make sense, pull a little bit, you cut that down. Oh, you spend a little money, you grow, grow. Top line grows. Oh, boom, pause. Let's look at, okay, where's the wisdom? What do we do? Remove that. You get a little bit more margin. And then over time, the company is shielded so much by revenue and margin that it becomes recession proof. But you can't do that, if you're not increasing the top line of the company. So I'm just crystal clear about my belief that it's not just Bill's, both of our names are Bill, so it's funny. But it's not just Bill's goal to grow the company. Bill, they go home, they think, oh, Bill wants this, Bill wants that, and, Bill wants this, Bill wants that. But if you don't explain the other side of the equation, no, it's not just what I want. What I want is an abundant, recession-proof environment where people can do what lights them up. And you're a part of that if you want to be.
First of all, that is gold for our listeners. And we, it's almost like, Jeff, we need to replay this, especially because we've been doing a pretty good job getting more and more downloads, but we definitely need to put this out a year from now, because it's still going to be true. It's not going to change. And there's certain truisms. So even if we play this in a month or 2 from now, we're going to switch to PPC in a second, because or maybe we can even end this and do PPC. I don't know, but this is great stuff. I'll tell you that on another note, I'm sure that in your strategic coach meetings, you're not surrounded by a lot of lawyers. There are lawyers in the groups, and maybe like 1 or 2 lawyers. But I think that the concept is just like the judiciary, which you probably don't know this, but they were the slowest to come to Zoom conferences, certain court hearings. Why the fuck do you got to be on the road traveling 2 hours to go from courthouse to courthouse where you could just Zoom in? There's some things that should be done live. I think even with depositions, you could do those visually, virtually, but sometimes you want to get into a witness and you got to see him face to face, like, but lawyers always seem to be the slowest to learn. And I feel like with lawyers, they're just like we talked about, just like lawyers are afraid not to be perfect, but I think lawyers also have a problem because they don't understand that profit centers can exist in their firm for different things. So for instance, Jeff, he came on board, and I think Bill, you could talk to him even about age, because sometimes I think when people get older, not only do they get confined by the chains, they also think that time is passing them by, which, I've seen people pivot when they're 50, 60 years old and they're successful. But I also think, like, for us, we're not going to do SEO marketing or PPC. I just don't have the time, nor do I want to ever get into that. I would never say never, but it's just not my passion. But how do you create profit centers even in a law firm? Well, one is coaching. I have a firm administrator person who's been collecting money for us for 20 years. Do you know how hard it is? Shit, if you had her collecting money from your clients, that's hard to collect from criminal clients. She could talk about collection of funds. She has had to fire and hire people over and over again. She's learned from her mistakes, going back to what you were talking about, like how to do a podcast or just getting in it. So much pain teaches you that you can relate to other people and then teach them how to hire and then fire people. But those are like profit centers in a law firm. I think a lot of lawyers don't understand. You don't have to be a law firm and do marketing, but you can create another area of law, encourage them to learn it, give them a higher percentage, have them run a practice area within your practice, and encourage them to be, people that are motivated by doing something else, so they think about it as their business. There are a lot of law firms that don't get it. They do it the traditional way. And it's kind of sad. I mean, or they just do it financially. They're kind of like, listen, I'll make you a partner, you'll get X percentage. And they think that that's really about building the team. But then the lawyer has an ego where it's still about the lawyer, where, my partners, as opposed to my team or people we work with, or, and they're not really getting the whole thing. And it's great that, an SEO, a digital guy was a strategic coach. Mike Mogul's an example of a guy who's done coach, and he's turned his business into a coaching business. It's phenomenal. We're going to get him on our show. You think he's coming in a couple of weeks, and I'm very happy to have him on too. But it's the ability to keep recreating. So
I have a point on that. Piggybacking on that point is, I think a lot of lawyers, especially, but any business owner, needs to accept that you're probably not going to become, a multi-millionaire, quote unquote, in net profit, doing what everyone else does, right? Even for us, even with our Google ads, management side of our company, which is pretty much the bulk of our revenue. I'm not going to become a multi-millionaire, managing people's Google ads campaigns. I'm crystal clear on that, right? You have to create a blue ocean product at some point where you appear as though you are the only solution in some way. And in criminal defense, I don't want to go too in depth into this, but there's a lot of people, not a lot, I should say, there's a handful of people doing this right, where they packaged all of their knowledge about, for example, white collar defense. Well, a lot of times people need to know how to deal with the whole sentencing process, what they should or should not say, how to show empathy in that process, right? And there are people who have packaged their knowledge and make millions of dollars a year. One of the guys, whitecollaradvice.com, he does this very well. He's created information training products on this for people who don't want to pay the 15, 20 grand to hire a white collar lawyer, right? But they want to make sure they get things right during that sentencing process. And he does millions of dollars a year because he created a blue ocean strategy where almost nobody else competes with him. And he pulls in the lower dollar value, people who wouldn't hire him for 15 grand, 15, 20 grand, whatever. He still gets revenue from them at 80% profit margin, and he never talks to them. They buy the thing, the video's already recorded. So there's, but the truth is this, Bill, like most lawyers aren't just take 80% of lawyers, like push them aside. They're never going to think like that. It's just, human nature. There's only a small, maybe 5% of lawyers that are actually innovative entrepreneurs and business people. It's just so rare. I agree with you.